Hello everyone, good evening. This is Dr. Praveen Ramchandra. I will be the moderator for this session. The topic for today's webinar is do's and don'ts for doctors in COVID-19 pandemic. By Dr. Abdul Khalik that about staff training in the medical sector. Please, Khalik.
Thanks, Kalpati. Thanks for the very good insight that you have given us. I'll be speaking a few insights of mine about staff training, though I won't be going into the nitty-gritty of each and every step of how to train staff and what are the different protocols. But overall, I will try to give some of my insights of involving the staff into the management of our patients in the clinics or in the hospitals where we are practicing. So first of all, the importance of training the staff is particularly we should take care of their safety. And if they are not well trained, they are likely to do mistakes. And by doing mistakes, they will become potentially infected with the infection, as well as they are also having the potency of spreading the infections to the patients who come to the hospital, as well as to ourselves. And once, as we have seen a few reports, if some number of healthcare professionals are turned out to be positive within a hospital, the hospitals are being closed, and which will be a big financial loss, as well as a bad reputation to the hospital, as well as the doctors who are practicing over there. So adequate training of the staff is a quintessential important step for each and every one of us before we start our practice. So there should be a change in our mindset as the lockdown is finished, and after Monday, as the government of India has allowed the clinics can be opened, we should not be in a mode of get set, go, let us go and let us start our practice without properly training our staff. So there should be at least three aspects where our staff should be trained. First thing is about the self-defense of self-protection from the coronavirus infection. Second thing is, as a team, how should we gel up to maintain each and every steps of our hospital functionings, as well as how we should be helping our patients during these times wherever the patients are either positive or potentially positive patients. These are the three areas which we should be training our staff. So before training our staff, we should have a very clear-cut design of what actually we need to train our staff. Before that one, we need to see what are actually their insights about the disease of coronavirus infection, and what they should be knowing, and why they should be knowing, and how to train. And at last, after training them, we should evaluate them that are they having adequate knowledge to protect themselves and to carry on the day-to-day activities of the hospital. Once we think that they are having fairly good potency of carrying out the day-to-day hospital activities, only then they should be given a green signal to serve the hospital. So first of all, we have to understand what actually are their insights. For that, either a simple Google form or a paper thing or a simple form can be given to understand about them, what actually is their understanding about the disease. And we have to take their insights, how they want to protect themselves, what changes should be done in their each and every specific areas. Like front office area is different from the pharmacy area, is different from an OT area is different. So we should be involving the members of different places in the hospital and try to get their insights from them. And we should try to encourage them to come up with the ideas how to implement them. And we should always listen to their concerns. So most of the ideas of how to implement and tweak, whether structurally or functionally, will be provided mainly by our staff who is working with us. So the first thing is, rather than we giving them the protocols, okay, do this one, this one, this one, it's better to involve them from each and every aspect, particularly the staff people who are quite active, and try to listen to them and implement them. So get the ideas from them and try to incorporate them and reward them regularly. So by rewarding them, there will be a sense of encouragement, and more staff people will be coming with much better ideas to implement within the hospital during these periods. Second important aspect of staff training is what they exactly need to know. the one aspect what they exactly need to know is what is called as PPE, but PPE is only one aspect. There are many other aspects and protocols that are required. The best way of training them is virtually rather than making them to sit in the class and going to the board and training. It's always better. Okay, we make all short videos of how to do, how to do, what are the PPE equipment which are required, how to use them, how to dispose it, if at all, if we need to reuse some of them like N95 masks, how we need to reuse it, they are reusing it in a personal way. So how to deal with the money when the patients give, how to take blood samples, or how to shift the patient from one place to other. There are so many protocols which can be designed in the short videos, which we have to circulate to the staff according to their specialty. Once they get trained, we need to evaluate them, and then we have to proceed. So first thing is they should be knowing about protecting themselves. They should have a clear-cut understanding of personal protective equipment, how to doff or how to wear that equipment, how to take out that equipment, dispose and reuse those equipment should be there. They should have a clear-cut understanding that just not the mask alone is important, but how we fit the mask and how we check that it is properly fit on this one, and what are the different other gear to be used according to their specialty, particularly if they are some of the staff members within the sanitation, what is the importance of using a long boots, etc., has to be re-emphasized. Second thing is, once we re-emphasize that one of the insights is we can make a team of 2 people or 3 people as a small team, give them the videos, and once they are trained, once the patient, for example, donning and doffing of the PPE is there, once the other person is donning and doffing, at that time the other team member will be looking and correcting him and taking a video, and these videos can be sent to the person who is monitoring them. And once we are sure that this person is doing according to a protocol, all the things, then we can allow them to serve our patients. So as a single size will not fit to everyone, making just a few protocols and giving to the patients in different areas will not work. We need to customize the protocols to each and every different aspect of the hospital. The protocols in the front office will be slightly different when compared to the lab, when compared to the nursings in the OPD, to OT, to nurses who are working in the ICU. So we should involve them and customize the protocols which will fit them the most. Second aspect which we need to train our staff is about the teamwork. Mock drills should be done, particularly in the hospitals, about different aspects of hospital, like moving in the patients, or during surgery, or endoscopy, or shifting of the patients, or bedding, cleaning of the patients, etc., etc. These need to be done by wearing the proper PPE. So doing as shown in this picture, wherein a simple mask is there and not a proper PPE is there, but by wearing the whole gear, how difficulty will be there for the staff to actually do these procedures has to be trained before. The third aspect is different aspects of what we call it as the movements of truth within the hospital has to be written it down, or has to be marked. Like after coming to the hospital till they leave the hospital, for each and every staff member, what are the type of the clothes that they have to, or the outfit they have to wear and come, and what should be their workplace etiquettes should be there, and how their eating habits should be, and while using the bathrooms, how to use them, and what to do after going to home. All these things has to be discussed as short videos has to be given to them, and should emphasize them to follow these things. The sanitation, as Chalpati has discussed, and previously we discussed the concept of a toilet fume. So using of the toilets has to be minimum within the hospital, and a proper sanitation of the for all the aspects of the hospital, not only the toilets, but the seats where the patients are sitting, the bathrooms, the beds, doorknobs, etc., has to be taken properly. And the third aspect that we need to discuss with our staff are what are the probable scenarios that can arise during this period. Patient can come without an attendant, yet problematic patient may be coming, or a patient may be requiring more support by travel or something, or what happens when a patient is collapsing within the hospital, or such type of different scenarios. We need to make a thought process of this one, and how we need to react to each and every scenario has to be made clear cut and to be discussed with the patients. And obviously during these times we will be requiring more coordinators. There should be more coordinators, and Yes, we have to differentiate at different things by mainly by time rather than the space, particularly in the OPDs, rather than spreading the patients at different places. I think it's better to spread them by time rather than primarily and secondarily by place. And more innovations are in waiting. Once we involve our staff, they will be coming with so many new ideas what to do at different aspects. A few of the things that I'm sharing with you people. One thing which is common in most of the hospitals is taking the attendance by using the fingerprint sensors, which are again the potency of spreading. So after using this one or prior to using this one, always using an alcohol-based sanitizer should be implemented. Opening of the doors, what should be the protocols, whether they have to be some sensors which open by themselves, or should we keep them completely open, or are there any means by which we can open it by using other parts of the body, has to be seen depending upon each and every hospital, and a thought has to be given to them, that one. During phlebotomy, like we used to go to movies to take the tickets, can such a thing can be implemented wherein the patient can give his hand and a phlebotomist on the other side of the screen of the glass can take the blood sample from the cubital fossa, has to be explored. The pharmacy, instead of explaining to the patient physically what medicines has to be taken at what time, morning, evening, etc., such type of boxes or such type of simple brown covers, like one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one in the night, the different medicines can be kept into that one and can be handed to them. And they have to be constantly counseled by keeping so many counselors, or a very good virtual counseling team or a counselor should be there who should be explaining to all the patients, because we need to see the physical communication between the staff, orders, and the patients is going to come down during this period, so which has to be compensated by virtual counseling. If not by the doctor, then there should be an adequately trained staff who should be trying to fill up this gap. And particularly sharing of the pens is quite common in the staff, which should be avoided. So everyone should have their own particular pens, and as we discussed previously, different accessories both for the male doctors as well as the female doctors should be as much limited as possible while in the hospital. Coming to the phones, there can be multiple policies, but I suggest that most of the, like in the IT companies, most of the phones should not be allowed to the hospital. Once they come to the hospital, they have to be deposited somewhere or kept within the locker, and a common number should be shared with the family members, so that if some emergency is there, they can see it. Because of the presence of phone and the social media, most of us have the habit of going to our social media or WhatsApp and looking at whenever we are free. So it's better if the smartphones are kept while coming to the hospital, and while going out, if they are taken, that is good. And whatever the emergency comes, someone will be there to communicate to us if it comes from our family. The second thing is, in the hospitals, in particularly in the wards, it's always better to use the phones rather than using the receiver at the ear as well as the mouthpiece. It's always better to install the phones with the speaker, which can be easily sanitized. So each and every time, whenever a call comes, they can see from which ward the call is coming, and by sanitizing this one and opening the speaker, they will be able to listen as well as communicate, by which the chances of infection will be much lower. The same is again the canteen. Rather than giving the time period of 1 to 2 for the lunch, we can break it by time. By one group can go somewhere from 11 o'clock till 3:30. We can group this one, and we need to rearrange our canteens so that while sitting, the distance, social distance or the physical distance is maintained, and the time can also be split of one staff going to the other staff. Yeah, mainly the money transaction has to be mostly in the digital platforms. If you are using some type of card swipe, these things has to be regularly sanitized. There should be a protocol of how money has to be taken, because while counting money, it's a common habit for most of us to use the saliva to count the money, which is again a potentially risky thing. So a clear-cut protocol of how to take the money and where to keep the money and when to reuse it has to be in place within the hospitals. Yeah, as we know that coronavirus doesn't differentiate between a poor person or a rich person. It can infect both the poor person and the rich person, and younger people and adult people. In the same way, in the hospital, we should also should not try to differentiate between the doctors or the high-end consultants versus the other staffs, like a janitor or a security person. Whatever the appropriate whatever the appropriate PPE is there, we should ensure that all our staff should be getting an adequate PPE. And during these times, some of the staff may have significant fear. We need to communicate with them, give some support psychologically, and some of them will be requiring even the financial support. We should be there to help them out in our hospital or clinic setups. And some of our staff members may be so frightened that they may prefer not to work. In such a scenario, we should give the choice to them to take a break for some time, but we have to support them both psychologically as well as financially whenever it arises. So guiding them, assisting, advising, supporting, and help is the other leadership role that all the doctors should take apart from our routine clinical practice. So the difference between a boss and a leader, as we know, that boss is generally throws the orders to do this one and that one. Rather than that one, we should be at the forefront and showing them the way that how we need to manage the patients. And this is a adequate time wherein we try to show our leadership skills. As was said by one of the very famous entrepreneur, Mr. Richard Branson, said, I truly believe that if you take care of your employees, they will take care of your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalik.